our vision statement and our mission statement. And last month we read the first half of our core beliefs, and I will read the second half this month. We believe in assessments that are authentic, meaningful, appropriate, and helpful in guiding students, teachers, in whatever vocation they choose. We believe in technology that enhances learning, enables education in varying environments, and prepares students for the current and future technology advancements. We believe in facilities should provide a safe, clean, and effective learning environment. And we believe in proper stewardship of resources that support sustainability, security, and effectiveness of our school district. All right, our next agenda item is the students of the month, and we will start with the elementary school.
All right, our student of the month for March is Mr. Quentin Cash here. So come on up, everybody. So everybody can see you. Okay. All right. So Quentin here is a sixth grader. Mrs. Fields is your homeroom teacher, but you actually have all three teachers, Mr. Raker and Mrs. Keaton as well, right? His mom is here, Jamie Thompson is here. I'm sure she's proud of him. From what I hear, he's a really great kid. Has a sister, Lexi, right? You brought her with you? All right, good job. I talked to you, but didn't I? I heard you named that. So I asked him what his favorite subject is. What'd you say?
Geography.
Geography. All right, I like that. What's your hobby? This one's going to shock you. Video games. Video games. Favorite food is pepperoni pizza. All right. Favorite color is blue. And he's a Marvel geek like me. His favorite movie is Avengers Endgame, right? I like all the Marvel movies. Do you? Yeah, me too. Me too. I asked him what he best liked about Bloomfield, and he said the school. And with that, I'm just going to say that we can't give Mr. Dean any props there because you haven't been through him yet. Who's all the props go to then? You do realize he's going to be your principal next year, right? Okay. The teachers asked them for a quote just on why they chose Quentin for the student of the month, and here's what I got back. Quentin has been a top student all year. He is responsible, honest, trustworthy, courteous, helpful, and caring. I don't know if there's anything else out there, buddy. You get them all. He is a student that teachers can count on to be in the right place with the right materials, doing the right thing all the time.
Pretty good.
It was very impressive. Here you go, Quentin. This is your plaque. Congratulations on being March Student of the Month.
Okay, so for the junior senior high school, we have two students of the month. We have this month is freshman or seventh grade and freshman, and our seventh grade student of the month is Lexi Oliver. All right, Lexi, go on. Are you tired? Have you played dodgeball yet? One game, and you win or lose? Okay, but it's still elimination, right? Okay, all right, okay. I'm gonna hurry up because I can tell she's getting embarrassed here. So, of course, the first question, favorite food is what? That's right, chicken legs. If you didn't hear her, she likes chicken legs. And I cannot argue with that. She's involved with the clubs, teams, and programs. She plays basketball, softball, track, and she's in junior beta. She's a big group. Her hobbies, she likes to play basketball. Her favorite subject? That's right, PE. She's like, why are you making me answer all these questions? And I said, what do you like most about Bloomfield Junior Senior High School? She said, most of the teachers. There you go. Who's your favorite teacher? If I have to put you on the spot. You want me to put you on the spot? Okay. I won't do that. Lexi Oliphant, Smart Student of the Month. Congratulations. Come over here with your picture. Mom and dad will want to come over here as well. Right? Great. Job, Lexi. Back up there, have some wins, right? Thanks, guys. Thanks. See you, buddy. All right. So our next student of the month goes to our freshman, and that is Bentley Whitfield. Bentley, come on up here, buddy. All right. How you doing? All right, I'm doing well. Bentley's always, number one, Bentley is always engaging. He always speaks to you in the hallway, and he's always upbeat. I like that about you. I really do. I notice those things, and so do your teachers. Now, this is a great one. So, your favorite food? Yeah, favorite food? What's it? Egg rolls. Egg rolls. Can't argue with that either. There's not a whole lot I want to argue with. He's involved in the band, in our band, guitar club, bass fishing club as well. His hobbies, likes playing guitar, video games, he likes to lift weights, enjoys music, and playing basketball. Favorite subject is, okay, English. I'll help you out there. Sorry. English. Didn't mean to throw you in the bus there. I got you. I got you. And this is one of the better responses that I've gotten. So I apologize to our neighbors to the west. What do you like most about Bloomfield Junior Senior High School? Quote, it's better than Linton. We have better teachers and staff, and there's more freedom and better environments. Okay, so there we go. Yes.
So 2 years ago, you were standing up. No, 3 years ago. It was before we got on the school board, and it was one of my first meetings. And the reason I remember this is because I went to school with your father. And looking at you looks like I'm looking at the father in high school. So. But you said that your goal was to start a comic book club. Yes. Did you? I guess not. Just curious. I thought it was interesting. And I have wondered that over the years. You wanted to start a comic book
Are
club.
you still interested in comic books? Mr. Riggleman's in Harlem. Yeah, there you go, man. But hey, listen, congratulations, man. Well done, sir. Seriously, man, that's a great, I mean, it's well deserved. Man. Let's go over here and grab a picture, all right? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Y'all have a great night.
Yeah, we'd like you to stay. You need to leave. We understand that. Thank you for coming. Yeah, see you guys. I'll let you go ahead.
All right, just a few things here. We just, third grade just finished up taking their IB testing. I know that's something that, teachers are really high anxiety about right now, given everything that we've been through this year with the COVID and kids coming and kids going, and, just having full virtual students, because everyone has to take this test. And I retested the third grade test, students have to pass So it's a pretty big deal. So I was interested after they took the test, you know, I went to the teachers and just kind of thought, oh boy, you know, what kind of response am I going to get? But I was pleasantly surprised that they were pretty upbeat about it. They said they thought the kids did a good job, they took it serious, worked hard. We invited all of our virtual kids in because they have to take it as well, and we made a time where they come in outside of school hours, and I think we had all but one. We had one student that we're going to hold off and try to retest them in the summer. But overall, the teachers really felt like the kids have done a good job. So we don't have any scores or like that yet, but we're very positive, positive vibes there for that test. Also, Mrs. Riggs' class, I like to go around the classrooms and kind of step in once in a while. And always pleasantly surprised when I walk in and they're doing some big project or they're moving around, got hands-on things going on. And I was really interested in what they were doing. They were making pinball games. And they had different things they were using to make pinball games. And they had working groups. They had certain rules they had to follow, and they had certain things they could vary from and make it their own. And they had to work together as a team. And that was, you know, for fourth graders, that's a big deal, you know, because, you know, you look over at one group and they're butting heads because this guy wants to do it this way, and one of the teammates, she doesn't want to do it that way, so they have to learn how to compromise. And I was really interested in watching them come around and to making decisions. And Ms. Riggs is not one that gives up easily, so she will stand there and make them do what they're supposed to do. And it was really fun to watch that process. They didn't do a competition. They just it was one of those situations where they helped one another. So if another group heard them talking and had an answer, they didn't hesitate to give them a response, to give them an option that they could use. And that was kind of cool too, to see them working together, even though they were in different groups. So I just wanted to recognize her and her efforts and the kids and how good of a job that they did. And then finally, last thing I have is with this construction, they're going to start moving our playground over spring break. So this playground down here, which is our only playground, one of the things that we're trying to do is move some of the items up here to where the old playground used to be, and then we're just going to have an area where we just have to find places to go to let kids stretch their legs and burn off some energy. So one of the things that we did is we kind of put it out there just to see if anybody would donate items that they could use to play with, just equipment that we could use. And we've had a couple people come in and give us some money or just bring in items. And yeah, anything will work. There's stuff for them to play with that they will like. And so I know Aaron's Purpose donated some items. They brought them in. One of our local sororities did the same thing. They wanted to remain anonymous, so I won't say it out there. But we've got a good response, and that it's awesome to be in a community that cares about the school, cares about the kids, and isn't afraid to step out there and do that. So thank you, and for Aaron's Purpose for helping out with kids, and the anonymous sorority as well. I think they gave us around $500 to spend on it, so I thought that was really cool also. So just, you know, given over the next year, we got a lot of things going on, as you guys are well aware, and so there's going to be displacement, and it's going to be a little bit harder sometimes because we're used to a certain way. But the kids have responded well all year long with all this COVID stuff and everything we've asked them to do. They've done a phenomenal job, way better than I thought they would. We were really worried about like kindergarten. You know, how do you keep kindergartners, you know, focused, masks on, you know, in line, all that, and they've done a phenomenal job. I'm not saying there aren't hiccups now and again, but they've done a phenomenal job. So it's just nice when you see the kids, the teachers, community come together for one solid purpose. So I just want to say thank you there. All right, that's really all I have. You're up.
Right. Knocked out here pretty quick. Okay, just a few things for junior senior high school. Number one, on Wednesday, March 3rd, we have our SAT at school day for juniors. So all juniors take the SAT that day, which is part of our early ballots program, free of charge to them. It's always nice to get that going, and of course they can take that at a later date if they want to do so. Also, NJROTC has had their annual military inspection, AMI, certainly a little different this year, is virtual. So Commander Hankins from Great Lakes met virtually with Commander Lemons and Chief Holberg. And then that was on the 9th. And then this past Tuesday, Commander Lemons invited the parents in, and they did the annual passing review for the ROTC. That went off really well. Really, we've had just in these 3 weeks quite a bit of things going on. But one couple groups I want to recognize. Our New Tech leadership team, as we continue to transition towards New Tech and project-based learning in the middle school grades and the middle grades. Our leadership team attended virtually the Leadership Summit, which was nationwide. And so we were meeting with teachers from the state of Washington, Locking, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, of course, just all over the United States. And that would be Ashley Duckley, Jennifer Eden, and Bree Carazia. So they participated in that. And then I also want to recognize my counseling department. Throughout the year, but more importantly, as we get into the second semester, we have groups of students that we meet with, at-risk students, staying on schedule for graduation and so forth. Ms. Fagan, Ms. Stahl, myself, we meet with these students bi-weekly, checkups, making sure everybody's on task, on schedule to graduate. Have they got the graduation pathway met? Where are they at on the process, and just making sure that we make no stone unturned there, so they're eligible, hopefully to certainly graduate in May. And then I'm going to end up here. Of course, our boys basketball team took on the chin there in this section, but we did have all conference selections for the boys and girls. And then also in the winter, we have one thing I like about the SWAC conference is that we recognize academic all conference as well. And that is just academics. That is not related to athletics at all. A lot of times there's a direct correlation there, but in this case, so we have. So Bloomfield girls SWAC all conference selections from Bloomfield. We had Kylie Shelton, Gracie Lowry, and Brianna Brewer, and then Dwayne Richardson was honorable mention. On the boys basketball all conference, we had Balin Graff and Brett Sherrard and Peter Combs was honorable mention. And then SWAC academic all conference, we had Drew Sherrard, Sidney Query, and Willie Ramsey. Were SWAC all academic all conference. So I want to recognize that as all we have for junior senior high school.
Okay, do we have any public comments regarding agenda items at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll go in with the consent agenda.
Yeah, just go through the consent agenda here. We have our meeting minutes from February 25th, also from the executive session, which was board training for March 9th. The treasurer's report, which includes our February appropriations and fund reports, the claims for March, and our bank statements from February as well. And then in the personnel, we've got a whole host of ECA sponsors, athletic coaches to be approved for the spring, and you have that list there. We also have a few resignations. I want to recognize them for their service here. They're going to finish, Sherry and Farmer and Lisa Horning are going to finish out the year. Thank you for Carla for her service here, and them as well, and we'll recognize them as it gets farther along in the year for the wonderful service here at Bloomfield. So I think we need to probably stop there.
Under personnel, we're going to have to pull a few names for separate votes, and we will pull Mr. Dave McIntosh, Bill McIntosh, Marissa McIntosh, and Wyatt McIntosh for a separate vote, and then we will also pull Caleb Penny for a separate vote. So we're voting on all the consent agenda except those at this time. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
We have donations on there. We want to recognize our donations. The Richardsons gave $250 to athletics. Thank you for that. High Lift Company, $400 to athletics. Thank you to High Lift. And then I'm not Psi Iota. Yeah, Psi Iota. Huh?
Psi Iota.
Yeah,
Psi Iota.
$500 to the elementary playground equipment. So thank you, appreciate the donation so much, and at this time,
Okay, yeah. So now we would, vote on these things minus those things that I mentioned earlier. So, do I have a motion? Stephen, do I have a second? Katie, thank you. All in favor? All right, thank you. Okay, now we will, vote on, Mr. Ray McIntosh, Joe McIntosh, Marissa McIntosh, and Wyatt McIntosh. Do I have a motion? Lana? And Katie for second. All in favor? All right, thank you. And then now we will vote on Hamilton. Do I have a motion? Terry, do I have a second? Marissa, thank you. All in favor? All right, thank you. Other business now?
yeah, so we're requesting acceptance, approval of the low bid general contractor for the building project. It is Empire Contractors, and I have attached all the bids. And Empire has come highly recommended. Some of the recent work in building and renovating of University of Southern Indiana. Empire is based out of Evansville. We talked about this a little bit at the work session, but just requesting approval for our general contractor for the building project.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Do I have a motion? Terry, and do I have a second? Katie, all right. Is there any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you.
Okay, now that we have our general contractor requesting approval of the notice to proceed with construction for the building project, the notice to proceed allows the contractor to begin the project.
Okay, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And Katie, and have a second? Lana, okay. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you.
All right, the third thing on other business is requesting approval of the Bluefield High School junior class parents have a proposed field trip proposal, proposed prom. They would like to take, proposed prom, take a couple, 2 to 3 school buses that they'll rent and pay for to Kings Island. And I've attached the board policy on that, and anytime it's out of state or overnight, the board has to give the okay for that field trip. And so I'm gonna give a little more information there about field trips, but just requesting approval for that post-prom field trip proposal.
Okay, I have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? Terry, and a second? Katie, any questions or comments? All right, all in favor? All right, thank you. And now on to reports.
Yes, Influent Energy called me and were interested in talking to me about solar energy, solar panels. And I listened to that presentation, was interested in the savings that we could have energy-wise, especially with the our new addition coming and having additional expenses in energy. And we made no decisions on this, but I felt like Kurt Hayward did a great job explaining some of the benefits that we would consider doing solar panels, the savings we could have. And so I asked him to come share a little bit, and we are going to talk to, and I told Kurt this too, so it's no surprise to him, you know, just kind of talk to other companies as well, and just see if this is a good option, something we're interested in doing. But he came today and looked at our specs and all that, and that presentation.
Thank you. I took one semester in law school, my voice forgets a little bit, so. Oh, it's okay. So you
rolled that up all nice. I don't want to ruin it for you. Let me look at it. Sure. Awesome. Well, this should be pretty short and sweet. I've done a handful of these over my years, so I'll make sure and try to be pretty quick, pretty diligent, but I like to leave a little bit of time at the end to broadcast any type of questions or answer any acronyms or anything I've used throughout the presentation. My name is Kurt Hayward. I'm from North Central Missouri originally. I live in Denver, Colorado now. I head up Influent Energy's Rocky Mountain office. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade. Went to the University of Missouri, played football there, and also played basketball at Central Methodist University in Missouri, where I received my MBA. I've been in mechanical retrofits and energy evaluations and ASHRAE studies since I was 21 years old. So I've got some mileage in the industry, so to speak. But I landed a really cool position with Influent Energy. And what we do specifically is we'll get into it here a little bit, but about 95% of my jobs is going to school, educating schools, understanding what school boards are looking for, and how we can facilitate and help, so to speak, especially given the current energy prices that they are. We're not ignorant to that fact and what that includes, from a school budget standpoint. So I've thrown together a little presentation here. First off, I wanted to thank you guys for your time. Thank you to Mr. Bales and Mr. Lehman today as well. I took up a ton of Mr. Bales' time, so thank you for that. Answered probably 50 questions between Shane and I, so that was nice to have that information. But everything we're going to show you today is 100% real information. There's not going to be any guesstimates here. This is all real data, and we can back that up with some experience to show that. So a little bit more about Influent Energy. Specifically, we know the industry that we're in. We are a true renewable developer. We are not a finance company. We are an engineering, a procurement, and a construction company. We strictly live in two different realms. That's commercial and industrial and municipal, which kind of fall into one, then also school districts. We have completed roughly, at this point, this number is going up as of yesterday. We have 700 plus clients, and we've completed 1,400 projects plus in the United States. We've completed those across 17 states. We are a woman-owned company, and we're very proud of that. Our COO and owner, Jessica Oakley, has been doing solar since 1996, which we are blessed. She's a wizard. I literally will tell her that every day of the week, and I love it. But currently, so as of right now, we are currently under deployment for 14.4 megawatts on school districts in the United States. That's not including any of our private companies, commercial, industrial, anything like that. We are deploying a ton of renewable energies for school districts. And I'm going to show you guys how we're able to do that. I just wanted to put this up there. This is Solar 101, guys. This just wanted to put some general information out there about panels. So the modules themselves, they absorb sunlight. It's very easy. Convert electricity is what those are going to do. Actually, I put this 30 plus years on there because I got to do a tour at a training facility in Southern Colorado 2 weeks ago. They had solar panels that were installed there in 1989. Not to date myself, but that's getting pretty close to my age, and they were still operating at 87% efficiency. Nowadays, technology is much smarter, obviously, so we can back that up as well. But a little bit about what they're constructed of. Everything that they're constructed of is made of recycled material, or can be recycled material. So some panels that we are able to purchase can include both of those options. Inverters themselves, so that's what's actually going to convert the sunlight to what happens when you flip the light switch on. We use string converters, and especially on school government properties, they cannot make any noise. That's an Indiana state regulation. So you walk past the green electrical box back there and it's buzzing. You walk past the solar array, and that is not the case. That cannot happen. And then ground mount, just a little bit about racking. This is my second trip to Indiana, and there's solar everywhere. You guys see it on the ground. You see those nice clean lines. They're typically very aesthetic if they're installed properly. We only do fixed access, so nothing of ours is going to move. It's not going to be mechanical. It's going to be put in one spot directly facing south at 12 to 12.5 degrees azimuth. That's the best that it's going to get. And then one thing that's really important, we are evaluating a project here for a ground mount option. And those ground mounts, those are driven pile foundations. So there's not going to be concrete footers, anything like that. So we're going to have to go through and move a bunch of grade, move a bunch of ground. And actually, I think I'm probably going to surprise you guys by where we selected, based off where Mr. Bales took us today. Where we selected to put this system may, like I said, may surprise you a little bit, kind of based off what its current purpose is. But if there's no more questions on that, let's jump into how you guys can do solar for no cost. We only work with companies that'll call and email us back, right? Or schools that'll call and email us back. Dr. Lehman was obviously intrigued by the idea of no-cost solar, right? Because we're not talking bond, we're not talking any type of budget money. How these agreements work, and in different states, they're called different items. In Michigan and Illinois, they're called power purchase agreements. Here in Indiana, they're called solar lease agreements. In Missouri, they're called FPAs or PSAs, power service agreements. So everywhere you go, based off the regulation of that state, they're called something. But in the state of Indiana, you have what are called solar lease agreements. And what those are, is that is an agreement, typically 20 to 25-year agreement, but it's between a generation developer and a school district. They want to deploy the system on your property. These are finance groups. They need somewhere to put this solar. And they are putting solar on school districts for one purpose and one purpose only. Because they can absorb the tax credits and turn that into money, and you guys cannot. $100,000 to you and $100,000 to them, there's a 30% difference day one just in tax credits. So they are able to monetize those tax credits in an instance where a school district purchasing that would not be. I have done 113 school districts and have not sold a project to any school district for any amount of capital from any perspective. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They deploy the system on school property, and they lease the production and the operation of that system to the school district. So that is essentially, in a nutshell, how that solar lease works. The system is not owned by the district, so included in that, the development, the cost for installation, for construction, for operations, for maintenance, for insurance, for warranty purposes, for any type of repairs that are needed if a hailstorm comes through, that is not on the cost of your guys. You guys do not own the system, you strictly own the power that it creates, and that's where that agreement comes in. On an annual basis, these financial outlooks, and I'm going to show you some real data today, these financial outlooks, if it wasn't green, I wouldn't be here today. I'm not going to waste my time, much less any other board's time. I understand how important these are. So based off our analysis for what we looked at today, I'm going to get into a little bit more specifics, but I just kind of wanted to open it up at this point to see if there's any questions.
What happens if those tax credits change? If they don't continue to get those tax credits and they're not as profitable?
That's a great question. You can only claim those tax credits at the contract execution. So when you guys sign an agreement with Jindal, the federal tax credits, at that point is when they can monetize those tax credits. Once you complete what's called a renewable product, those are RRECs or SRECs, and they come in the form of income tax credits, ITC. So once they've completed that contract, they can send that letter off to the IRS and get that 26 or 30% tax credit on the full contract price of that. And once they have that, it is locked in for a minimum of 5 years. They have to monetize those in 5 years, which some of the financial outlook I'll show you here in a minute will make a little bit more sense of that. But that's a federal and a state tax credit. And with the new administration that moved in January, they held over that 26% tax credit. It was supposed to drop to 22. And if it dropped to 22, we would not be here having this conversation today. That holdover in Duke's Energy, their net metering limit is what allows us to be able to look at Indiana for projects like that. It's a great question. Any other questions so far, guys? We'll jump into a little bit more detailed analytics here. So this is where I live and breathe, guys. I can't tell you how many of these I've saved on my laptop or shoved in my bag right now. But when we're looking at energy savings, right, this isn't a guesstimation. We're not trying to throw a dart at a board and get some type of crazy number to intrigue you guys in or contact with a finance company that wants to put solar on your property. They're protected by the contract, as are you. So how we come up with those energy savings? Number one is we get to know the utility usage. Dr. Lehman provided us with what's called a utility release. We send that off to Duke Energy. They send me a huge report that'll crash your laptop if you're not careful. It's a very, very big report. But what we can see happening is every 15 minutes, we can see what happens at all the electrical meters on all of school property. Everything from the lights down by the baseball fields to the main facility that powers all three of the major facilities on this smaller campus, everything. But that tells us what we need to know when we're looking at system sizing and savings associated with that. That's a 365 days. Now, the thing that's beautiful about you guys is looking back 365 days, you guys have been in school. That's a struggle that we're really dealing with in Michigan and in Illinois, because they were not in school this fall, this past fall. So we're 673 kilowatts, so that's 673,000 watts is the system that we decided to evaluate for this project. And that's about 1,500 panels. Now, I don't want you to think that's a whole bunch. That's a fairly normal sized project for a school district. Most of the school districts we're doing are anywhere from 400 kW to 3.5 megawatts. You guys are somewhere in that comfortable zone. But that 1,500 panel mark, I'm going to show you guys a little bit more specifically how that will fit on your property. But looking at 12 months of this from your guys' facility is what gave us that 673 watts. That's 673 kW, I'm sorry. So this is what we are looking at installing. This is a project that I did in Fort Lupton, Colorado. This is a ground mount system. This is pointed straight south, double bifacial panels. What you're looking at here is what we're going to put out here. There's a pretty steep grade included in all of this, or what we would like to put out here. There's a pretty steep grade included in all this, but the beautiful thing is that dude faces straight south. The more you can get facing straight south, that panel will hit more sunshine, but with the backs facing north, it'll stay cool. Anytime you can get air onto an electrical component, I'm sure Mr. Bales understands that, that electrical component's going to run better. It's going to run more efficient. So when you have an ability to put one on a hillside, the back of those panels are going to stay cool, and the front of those panels are going to absorb heat. So this is, if you can imagine, going to be covered all over this area, and that's going to look just like this. So this is 673 kilowatts installed on your property. The blue lines are obviously panels. Now, those are going to be spaced apart for two different reasons. Number one, we have to keep them spaced apart so that row 1 doesn't shade into row 2, row 2 doesn't shade into row 3 in a second. But number 2 is there are rules and regulations for the state of Illinois, state of Indiana legislation that says how far we have to stay away from things with these panels. These are electrical components, right? So we don't want them too close to a sidewalk, too close to something that's accessible for kids. Now, there are other components that will be to this. There will be an 8-foot tall black galvanized fence surrounding this. That is not going to block any type of view. You're going to be able to see it. And it's going to look very aesthetic, like the picture I showed you previously. But 8-foot tall black galvanized fence surrounding it. These will be pile driven, mounted to the ground. And as well, like I said, those small blue dots that you're seeing, those are where those inverters will be located along this system. And there is a strategic purpose to that. I didn't just put them out there looking like that for any particular reason, other than that's where they have to be to connect those different modules. But yeah, I like this area, especially given that, understanding that the shot put and disc ring down at the bottom, isn't quite in that much use anymore. But from a perspective of what you can fit on this piece of property right here, for what it is and what it exists as, I'm going to show you the financial evaluation of being able to do that. Now, we are also in the process of evaluating a couple of the rooftops when that addition comes in. If this system does want to get bigger, we're going to look at probably putting it on one of the rooftops. We are currently, thanks to Mr. Bales, he got us a ton of information today. So once we get that addition factored in, we'll be looking at that a little bit more specifically too. But for the purpose of today, I wanted to show you a real life evaluation of the current electrical bills and what this 673 kW system will be.
So what about water? I believe that's a floodplain there.
Most of the time, as long as you're on grade, water is not a concern. There is an irrigation ditch, as you can see right here. It's running down through this side. But anything on the south side, as long as it's more than a 2.5 degree slope, we can put it pretty much in the road. Yeah. Floodplains aren't always a concern unless it's flat ground. As long as that water can continue to run. And there are, I put up at the top, NREL reports. That's the National Renewable Energy Lab. They're right across my office in Denver, Colorado. What we do is we drop a pin in your parking lot. We send those coordinates as a GPS coordinate off to NREL. And NREL gives us this report. So we're not assuming 365 days of sunshine, right, in southern Indiana here. They send us back a report that includes 365 days on a 10-year basis of sunshine, of soil in there. The farmer to the west tills that ground up in April to get ready to put corn or beans in. There's going to be soil in there. That soil is going to settle on these panels. We have to calculate that in too. So everything that we're looking at here is directly from NREL. And they also look at floodplains. They also look at slope. They drop this into a topography GPS, and it'll show that slope. The other good thing about putting it on an angle like this is snow calculation. You guys had a lot of snow this year. There's a lot of schools that did. And from a perspective of putting it on a grade with snow, that's going to keep those panels really, really clean. Anytime it rains or anytime it snows, people are always like, oh, the panels aren't going to work. Those are some of the best production days because those are some of the days the panels are most clean. Any other questions on just kind of where we decided to show an example for this at?
David, you may be able to answer this. You're in town, probably sit there. Fireworks display by the town.
Yeah, I mean, it
They
is.
always
I mean,
use our property.
yeah, they do. I don't,
Do they let them off right in the baseball diamond?
yeah, they do.
They let them off down there at that.
Usually let them off in the back there, I mean, you know.
I mean, that's,
Is that the only option, or is the rooftops?
No, rooftops are options as well. The thing about rooftops that can get a little tricky, and we addressed some of this today, roof warranties, roof conditions, roof repairs, anywhere where you put this system needs to have no designated use for the next 30 years. These panels are gonna last at least 30 years. So if you're putting them on a rooftop that's 10, 12, 15 years old, we're gonna have to assume that roof is gonna have to be replaced sometime during the life of these panels. Now, obviously, that's different when you start talking about an addition. When you slap a brand new roof up there, especially a membrane or a flat roof, that's an absolute ideal time to do that, because you got a brand new roof that's gonna be warranted for 15 to 20 years, and from that perspective, there's not gonna need to be any roof repairs. None of the systems that we do are gonna punch holes in the roof, do any type of penetrations, anything like that. Everything's gonna be a weighted ballast system. But for this example, I chose to use ground just because I know you guys got some construction projects coming. You do have a couple roofs that are newer, a couple that are a little bit more aged. We are actively evaluating those with the roof warranty companies as well.
Did you look at the field across the highway from there?
We did. That one jumps into a little bit of a problem. Anytime you bore underneath a county or state highway, I can't begin to tell you the nightmare of permitting.
Oh, I know all about it.
It's exactly. And I'm sure you can speak to that. It has been done, and we have done it before. We've drilled under a 4-lane highway before. And a lot of times the cost to do that can offset the cost of what's called our EPC. So our engineering, procurement, and construction cost. When we start adding that up and it gets to a certain level, the finance company that's looking to lease this energy to you is gonna up the lease payment because it costs them more. So in the event that we do slap something up, that's 400, 500 yards away from the facility, and we have to go underground because we can't go over top of the highway, and we have to go underground, there is a bit of a cost that's included in that, but we are not done evaluating.
Just concerns me that we're already so landlocked and if we use more property that could potentially be used in the next 30 years for something else, whereas we're not likely going to be using the
Right.
street.
And the same thing for a rooftop, right? And, with a rooftop perspective, that's unused square footage. That's why finance companies love churches and they love schools, because you guys have the biggest footprint, from a square footage perspective of rooftops. But again, we're not done evaluating that process as well. Especially with the new addition coming along and things like that, we will certainly be open. And at the end of the day, this is your guys' decision where you want it to go. If solar is something that you guys are interested in and want to continue evaluating, the more feedback from you on where this goes, the more dangerous that makes sense. The better we're going to be able to comprehend where, why, and what's most effective. That's a legitimate concern, because like I said, it's going to be there for 30 years. It's going to be there long by the time I'm out. So it's certainly going to be a long-term state when you look at a piece of property. Any other questions? We can jump into a little bit of the financial metrics around it.
Real quick,
Yes, sir.
you came up with the 1,500 panels. What's that based on? I mean, could it be 1,000 panels? Could it be, what criteria you use to figure 1,500 panels is the right?
Your electrical usage. So if you imagine a Venn diagram, a reverse Venn diagram, on one side of the puzzle you have system size, right? So system size, we want to try to make it as large as possible. On the other side you have electrical savings. At one point, there's a sweet spot. Once you get past that, it's diminishing returns. So we may be able to put 5,000 panels on the property across the street, your electrical savings may be half of what it is for this benefit. Now, this is again not considering the additional usage that's going to be included with the new add-on. But those utility data and the bills, kilowatt hour usage for the customer that they're going to look at, that tells us everything we need to know. Once we drop that to our energy acuity software, it's going to tell us specifically what system size is going to create the best financial balance. That's a great question. I get that one more often than not than you would believe. But again, I've got a slide right here that's going to show us a little bit more about that. Right, here's a current electrical bill. So this is January to January. This is real life data. We got this from Duke Energy with your permission. So what we're looking at here, 365-day total is $106,253 for the 2 meters that we're evaluating for this solar project. There are additional meters out there. They're not going to be equitable for solar, if you will, especially the ones that are down by the lights, down by the softball fields, baseball fields, the one on the other side of town. There's not enough usage there for you to justify us to do a project. So that top is the current electrical bill for the large meters here on this property. If we take that 673 kW and plug it into that exact same data, so not messing with anything other than giving you 673 kilowatts of data, your current electrical bill for that same time is $9,780. That's $95,000 electrical savings. And again, that's using real data. That's not us making any assumptions. That is us using NREL's straight sunshine day calculation. Those are considered 400-watt panels. So once you do that mathematics, at that difference, 90% of your energy that you are purchasing is going to be purchased from your own property, opposed to purchasing it from Duke Energy. I heard the chairman say in your guys' vision statement, one of the things is sustainability. For the district in the future, this is quite literally how you become your own power plant. So when you're talking sustainability going green, not only being more sustainable, being more green, but you're getting yourself into a situation and a position where 30 years from now, you're still going to be hedging against your local utility. And it's not that your local utility is going to hate you for this. When you put green energy on their grid, they get to count that towards their renewable energy goals for the state, for the Public Utility Commission. So that's why you see green energy projects popping up all over the place. So like I said, from a perspective, that annual energy use, this answers a little bit more specific to the question you asked earlier. We need to come up with 1,028,000 kilowatt hours. So when we factored in the sunshine days for Southern Indiana, dropped the pin in your parking lot, got the report from NREL, that 627 kW is what they came up with for the most appropriate size. I just threw so much information at you guys like. Is there any more questions that you guys can think of?
I'm assuming our energy usage is probably gonna go up with the new addition.
Correct.
You took that into account.
And not for this evaluation. But the interesting thing about that is the tariff that you guys are under, this Duke LLF, this is a limited tariff. Even you guys have such a wide range to be able to go up and down, and you're still going to fall in that tariff. So if we bump this system size up, obviously your usage is going to go up. We bump the system size up, the savings are going to correlate to that. You guys have a very, very, very long way to go down and go up before you change out of any type of tariff. And even with a 15,000 square foot, so I have an ASHRAE table where I can drop that in. We call it GM mixed use offices. You throw in 15,000 square feet. It only affected your guys' system size by roughly 90 kW. So once we bump that additional load on there, the savings will also increase. Those are both correlated. That's where some estimations come in. And for this purpose of this meeting, I wanted to give 100% real data with what we have right now. We are working on some additional information for the add-on that Mr. provided to us. So once we get that calculation done, we'll be able to provide that as well. So this is what a 30-year agreement looks like. This is a 30-year lease. The system is going to last for 30 years. The term will be 25 years. So what happens at the end of 25 years? They say, congratulations, you completed this term lease. Here's the keys to the system. At this point, there is one cost that is accrued at year 26, and that is operations and maintenance. For a 673 kilowatt system, that's about $1,500 a year. So at year 25, you do drop off that lease payment, but you do take on that $1,500 a year, roughly $1,500 to $2,200 a year of operations and maintenance. The column on the far left, that's your years. Number one is lease payments. So as you can see, in year one, this was the electrical bill savings that we just looked at, $96,473. Your lease payments for the solar system for that same amount of 365 days gives you a total cash flow year one of $17,223. As we continue to follow that down, you guys see this electrical bill savings growing, right? How is that working? You're having the same panels that are out there that have been out there. Nothing's improving about the panels. They're not increasing more sunshine, so how is that growing? The way that that's growing is we get a number from the Public Utility Commission called your utility escalation rate. That's how much Duke Energy is bumping up their rates year over year. And you guys can feel free. Go to the Public Utility Commission, type in Duke Energy, and it'll show you that number. That's 3.9%. I use only round numbers for these, especially given the 30-year outlook, so I use 3% for the utility escalator. So that's how, even though these systems will degrade with 0.5% a year, your electrical bill savings are still going to continue to rise over the span of this. So as you can see, electrical bill savings, year 1, 17,000, year 10, 25,000, year 25, you're at 45,000, and the lifespan of this system, you have a net positive cash flow of $1.67 million. And I can show you a real life example of this exact size project with a number that was real close to that. And we'll talk about that here shortly. But as far as a 30-year projection, that's what we came up with. And again, keep in mind, we're not talking the addition here. We're talking strictly what's being used on your property at this exact moment. So based off that data right there, there's a ton to look at. I'm going to make sure and share this with Dr. Lemus so you guys have a copy of this as well. But is there any questions that jumped out at anybody specifically looking at this agreement?
One of the things that was interesting to me is we never pay that lease fee. Like, from our budget.
Correct. That's no different than you're operating, than you're paying your utility bill. Correct. There's no difference in that. Other than now, your secretary will have to pay 2 utility bills. That's how that works. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So right now, you have a utility bill of $106,000, $253. So we'll call it $100,000. So your secretary is writing POs responding to that for the correlating months, 8,000, 8,000, 7,000. So opposed to that, she's going to write a check for this to Duke Energy on an annual basis, and you're going to lease the operation of the system from a finance company. So you will have 2 utility bills at that point, but your other utility bill is a set rate. It's not based off how much energy you use, how little you use. It's $6,600 a year. That's how that's broken out. That is on I believe a 1.5% escalator, and that's determined by the finance company. So yeah, essentially you are decreasing your use from Duke, creating power on your own site, and leasing that system from the finance company, who can monetize those tax credits. Does that make a little bit more sense? Okay.
So after year 30, what happens to the solar panels? They just sit there forever?
These solar panels are going to be Bloomberg Tier 1. And what that means is we only purchase and install Bloomberg Tier 1 solar panels and inverters. And that's a warranty that's held by a third party. So in the event that in year 24, a massive hailstorm comes through and mows through, you still got 2 years worth of warranty left on them. It'll be replaced at that time. Any panel that falls out of the degradation rate, which is 0.5%. So if you can imagine at year 2, if there's a panel looking at the software, which Mr. Bales will have access to it, we'll put a 60-inch big screen in your new atrium so that every student that walks by can see how much energy was saved yesterday based off of it. With that software, it's also going to tell you which panels are operating and which ones are not. So if one of those falls out of warranty, bam, that's a manufacturer replacement at manufacturer's cost. Once you get to the end of this agreement, there's 2 different things that you can do. At year 25, they're going to say, okay, we've been in agreement for 25 years. Are you satisfied? Here's the financial metrics that we did together in 25 years. We have 2 options. Number 1, we'll hand you the keys. We'll walk away. We had a great relationship. Thank you. We saved you money. You made us money. Everybody's happy. Or number 2, they'll say, let's jump right back into another agreement, and we'll replace this entire system, start all back over. I've been a part of 2 of those transitions, being both directions, handing a system over to a nonprofit, as well as rolling right into a new PPA or these. So there are options. And something else that happens built into these agreements, and this, finance companies don't like you guys being able to know this, but this is something that's important. At year 5, when they monetize those tax credits and they're completed monetizing, they're going to call up Dr. Lehman and say, hey, are you guys happy? You like the system? Just like a depreciated vehicle. Here's what we'll sell it to you for. And there's an opportunity to purchase the system at that time. I recommend people don't do that. Wait till at least year 10 to 15. The financial metrics, just like a vehicle, you're going to put more miles on that car. Depreciation is going to continue. But at year 5, 10, and 15, they will offer you a buyout. Or they will offer you the ability to roll into an additional 20-year agreement. I typically tell people, wait till the full into the agreement. You're either going to get a system that's still going to have 5 years worth of warranty attached to it. And at that point, your net cost, your net cash flow on this is pretty healthy. But once you get to that point, you can either roll into a new agreement or, like I said, get the system itself at that point.
But by taking the system by yourself, for example, say the board 30 years from now has completed the terms, they've already been handed the keys, the 30 years is up, the panels aren't working anymore, then what? do the panels just stay there and don't benefit us?
That depends on the usage at that time, but essentially yes and essentially no. I would not recommend that you get to the end of this term and take the keys without a plan moving forward. That's where you would contact a developer such as us again. And like I said, we would either recommend you roll into a new program, or we could also at that time give you the cost of what it would be to replace the system and get it to whatever operational standard that it's at. But that's typically a board decision, or an educator decision from that standpoint. And either way you go, you're either going to go real heavy net cash flow for those 5 years. The net cash flow that you get from these 5 years, you could pretty much buy about 80% of the system as it's installed today. So that is a financial outlook to think about it that way too. You're going to be pocketing a ton of cash at that time, going right back into the operational budget. So you can do one of two things in that perspective.
I'll be 79, probably won't be.
This is being recorded, so you'll remember.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there is a time frame when we're not under warranty.
There will be, yes, ma'am.
So how much does it cost to replace a panel? What are we looking at for cost?
That depends. If it falls out of the degradation rate, a degradation and a warranty are separate. With warranty, you think about a car warranty. If something goes wrong physically inside the panel, one of the components goes wrong, it overheats, it's not producing, whatever it may be, that manufacturer's warranty will be that. From a degradation rate, that's different. Any panel that falls out of that degradation rate is automatically out of warranty. But essentially what you're looking at, especially from that time frame, of that shorter time frame, if it's producing anything at that point, you're winning. Quite literally. Especially from a standpoint of Bloomberg Tier 1 panels, those typically American single panels. From that perspective, you're really heavy cash flow at that time. But if one does fall out of warranty, the panel is replaced. Typically what you're looking at there for a cost of a panel and a licensed electrician to go in and replace that panel, anywhere from $90 to $3,000, and it can vary just that much today. Now, you have to think, solar has decreased by 71% the last 9 years. The cost of solar, the cost to install solar, the cost to maintain solar. That's only going to continue. Technology gets smarter, installers get smarter, racking is getting more efficient, panels are getting smaller, being able to load more at the same time. So by that time frame, things are going to be a whole lot smarter than they are now. That's crazy to think, because like we can walk into some schools and do complete projects. We put the big screens right in the screen. Everybody walks by on a daily basis and saw how much energy was saved yesterday, or a month or a year to date, or system to date. So it's real life data, but yeah, there will be a span there where it will be out of line. That's a great question. Any other questions you guys can think of based off this projection?
So they're made from recycled materials. Are they recyclable?
Racking and all internal components, including the glass, are opportunities to recycle. Actually, know a guy in Table Rock Lake, Missouri, who buys bulk old solar panels and turns them into fishing reels. I have 2 of them. So there are lots of applications for this. But what they can actually do, especially on bifacial modules, they can go through and run all new components inside there, so the carbon polymers, as well as the wiring, turn around and put the panel right back out. As long as it passes electrical inspection, as long as it passes that degradation rate, they'll test it really heavy load for 30 days.
Did you look at how many panels could possibly be placed on the new construction and the new roof project that they're doing?
Yeah, I did. I can show you a quick example here of what that system size looked like on top of a new roof. Maybe not. I'll have to send that to you. I do have that generated. But from a perspective of how much we can fit up there, keep in mind that sweet spot and that point of diminishing return. We will maintain a positive cash flow on a project. That's the only way our finance partners will back a project like this up. So as long as we can maintain that positive cash flow. Now, there will be an opportunity as well. If we really jack this thing up to as big of a system as we can, there will be an opportunity for, we could add an additional 100 panels to that, and it wouldn't change any type of electrical state. Now, there is excess. There will be months where you guys are going to be creating more energy than you're consuming. And at that point is when net metering comes in. That's the only reason we're able to sit here and talk today. So once that net metering kicks in, that energy is actually going to be going back to the grid. Duke Energy will be buying it from you at a rate that is pretty much a wash. So it allows that financial projection and that lease protection, a little bit of insurance, so to speak. They buy it at a wholesale rate, and then that's what they consider green energy on their own grid.
Would it be possible to put some panels on the new construction and some where you would like to put?
Yeah, the project, or the layout that you guys saw here, the additional layout that I put on top of the gym as it sits right now, and now I was able to get 800 kW. So that's an additional 100 and, give or take, 160, 150 kW. From that perspective, that's where at 800 kW is a really sweet spot too, especially given the new usage that's going to be coming on. And I was able to calculate that with about 18 to 20% of what's called reputable return. So from that perspective, looking at adding systems to this, we do a lot of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 systems, especially given construction, given moving a playground, there's a ground that opens up, ground that closes, for an opportunity to put solar on. But from a perspective of this, we could actually do a few phases. We could utilize whatever ground is possible, and in the event that this is not possible, we'll either look at kicking it across the road, or we're going to maximize out as much rooftop space. I've done a lot of projects that are ground mount and rooftop mount. Yeah. And every campus is different, right? You go up to Michigan, they don't have centralized campuses like you guys. They have an elementary school on the other side of town, junior high on the other side of town, elementary on the other side of town, then they have a junior high school in the middle. So those can create a little bit of headaches. That's called distributed generation. But from this perspective, yeah, we can absolutely do multiple phases of this type of project. Yeah. Good question. Anything else you guys can think of? Just wanted to give a little bit more of the benefits. So what's going to happen for your school, right? Renewable energy support, putting money back in the budget. Obviously, that's why we're here, right? We want to try to maximize that as much as possible. Day one savings. When this system gets turned on, there's no lease payment involved until this system is commissioned. So there won't be any lease payment that's costing to the school until this system is sending you energy. Obviously, the progress towards meeting sustainability goals. Your local utility is going to like this. Your vision statement is going to like this. And your local taxpayer is going to like this. I'm sure everybody understands taxes. The long-term hedge, that's something that a lot of people don't take as serious as they should. This is something where you're going to lock in this energy rate for the next 30 years. Or you're going to continue paying 3% increase year over year. And I'm sorry, guys, there's no, electrical use is not going to go down. And the cost for electricity is never, at this point, going to go down. You can look at everything that the projections are looking for from the Public Utility Commission. But this is a great way to help you that. The last thing is we actually have a state-approved curriculum. It's called Generating Tomorrow. It was written by our CEO, Jessica Oakwood, who's a former educator as well. She put together a really cool, it's K-12, non-political. We actually will also put that on the big screen, keep it rolling through there. I told Dr. Lehman this. I got to go and present and teach that, as weird as that is. My mom's a teacher, my dad's a school board president. Never thought I would get to do that. But I got to go teach a 7th grade class in Michigan for 2 straight days on that solar curriculum. And it's really, really cool. We're really proud of that. That's something we really hang our hat on. Just wanted to provide a couple quotes here. And this is the project I was telling you about for the distributed generation. Where we did 3 on the ground and 2 on roofs. That was one that they have 7 facilities all across town. But this was a quote from Superintendent Brent Noski. They spent close to $500,000 a year. He said it was kind of just a no-brainer to go this route with Influent Energy. There's no cost. We have annual savings. And projects like this are how we make headlines like that. Obviously, there's economic too. During our span here in Bloomfield, we're going to hire local engineers, local lawyers, local electricians. We need people who have local permits. We provide all on-site project management. That is part of Shane Griffin, who some of you got to meet today. He is the say-all, be-all when it comes to completing projects for solar purposes. And then also, from a perspective of sales tax, that's going to go right back into the community too. On a project like this, you're looking for a couple $1 million. And obviously that's not a cost to you guys, but a couple $1 million for the sales tax, that certainly helps the community as well. And then, like I said, we're always really happy to give any school that we partner with, any district we partner with, we give them access to this. More than happy to show you guys. I'll send it to Dr. Lehman after this as well. This is really cool, guys. We, like I said, as a company, both of our owners, myself, Shane, everybody from our family is either educators or still lives in that realm. We hang our hats on that and appreciate that as well. So like I said, this is something that we really enjoy doing, is that generating tomorrow. That's all I got, guys. I'm going to provide this information. Like I said, Dr. Lehman, he can disperse that out if you guys like this presentation. If you'd also like to see the hard set proposal that we provided, I'm more than happy to provide that to you. We don't hide any costs, anything like that. We're not scared of competition or bids or anything of that sort. We provide a product like this that a lot of other people can't. And that's why, from our perspective, we like to partner with school districts like this. So thank you for your time. Yes, sir.
Question. Did you guys look at the South Complex at all?
We did not. None of the meters out there, so that LFF tariff that I showed you, that's about 14.5 cents per kilowatt hour. All the meters down there are paying less than 6. So from a perspective of putting solar to a pump, a solar or electrical offset there, it's not suitable. The thing is that property would potentially be suitable for, and it won't be for the next probably 2 years in Duke Energy territory, would be what's called a solar site, where you would physically lease that ground to Duke Energy. They would provide a solar system on there. Now, you guys won't get any of that solar energy, anything like that. They're just going to plug that right back into their grid. But I can guarantee you one thing. Whatever you're leasing that 10 acres on across the ground for agriculture, it's going to make you more than that solar lease out there for 100 acres. I can guarantee you that today. So that's one thing to keep in mind with that property. Now, that is a splendid problem to have, having that much excess property out there. And there's going to come a time when that's going to be appropriate. But at this point, I think it's a little bit premature for a solar site lease. Any other questions, guys?
Thanks, Kurt. So, he obviously does a great job explaining this. We started the conversation on the phone, and I was a science teacher, and, believe in green, both for the environment and for the cash flow. So, so I thought it was something to look into, be educated on, make no decisions at this point, but just thought something to plant a seed, see if that's the direction to go, to have some cost savings, help the environment.
Absolutely, and we're not done evaluating yet. We've got some additional homework to do on our end. And you guys are not the only district we're talking to in Indiana. We have 96 school districts that we're specifically talking with in Indiana. And that's going to continue to grow as long as I'm here, which is going to be a lot coming up over the next couple months. Like I said, with the new regulation that passed, as well as Duke Energy new rules, that opened up some doors for companies like ours to come in and provide these kinds of services. So once we get the additional evaluation done, and again, thank you, Mr. Dale, for that additional information, I'll provide that presentation. That'll be the biggest system that we can get. The biggest one that we can do, that'll be including the additional add-on, the 15,000 square feet, and the electrical usage associated with that. From that point, it's going to be up to you guys. So.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. Also, I'll give you guys some business cards too. Any questions between now and then? My cell phone and my email is on this. I'm 365 days a year on the road, so feel free, more than happy to call, text, shoot me an email, anything like that. Any questions you guys may have or come up with, like I said, feel free to reach out and we'll answer that to the best of my ability. Thank you. Thanks, Doctor.
And now, superintendent's report.
Yes.
Put it over there, so.
All right, just a few updates. I have this in your executive content, but the 21st Century Program, they're going to send surveys out here after spring break, and also considering in their grant, they do have summer programming, so we're talking about what that may look like as well. Health-wise, just kind of update. We did have one COVID case this week. No contact tracing was needed because they've been home, and all our educational staff can get vaccinated now. So our county was still blue as of yesterday. We got the code, so As I said, I'm gonna only give updates when there's a significant change in our circumstance, which we hope it's only for the better at this point. So I know Governor Holcomb's gonna talk Tuesday night at 5:30 about the plans moving forward, so you may want to see what he has to say if you get a chance. We had our pre-K kindergarten roundup, and that went really well. We had 35 kindergartners, 18 preschoolers, and you know, what does that mean for next year? They say it's a lot of times half of them come to this. So if we double that, that's, you know, not too bad. So how many in kindergarten do we have? What's our kindergarten size? Like 85? 80, yeah. So we have a nice kindergarten class for us. CARES $2, I want to talk a little bit about that. So we will be getting that money, $688,810, and it's based on our Title I form allocation, proportional share of that. And they're recommending using that for accelerated learning, the term that's out there, the achievement gap lost during COVID. And so we're talking about the principals that I just met today. What are we going to do? How are we going to identify students who fell behind, and what are our strategies to help them? And so we're talking about summer school and paying teachers, and transportation, maybe we don't, you know, just working out those details. That's going to be first priority, is the learning gap. And then they talk about sustainable innovation and updating tech and other infrastructure. So we're going to use, we also want to use the CARES 2 money to jumpstart the rotation on our Chromebooks and our ViewSonics in the classroom, so we can fit that into our budget annually. So this CARES money is going to help us jumpstart that, because we know in this day and age we're going to continue to have those. And so this is going to jumpstart our budget, that we can get a rotation to fit a proper rotation of the Chromebooks approximately every 4 years. And then whatever's left over, we've got other options, supporting educators and other infrastructure. One of the things they talk about is mitigating the spread of viruses. And so, you know, you brought up the cafeteria, so the cafeteria is on the dot. What can we do there we know we need some enhancements there, and I know we got some bond money for that as well, but we could throw some CARES money in there too. We also, you know, kind of depending how summer school goes and the achievement gap, maybe we need some extra staff, I don't know. So we're still working on those plans. So those are just all ideas in the works. And so I wanted, that attachment there is from the DOE, and that answers a lot of the questions, the frequently asked questions. And we have 3 years to spend this, so we don't have to rush in making those decisions as well. So those are my updates. Any questions about those?
So I'm assuming we would provide transportation to get these kids here, correct?
We have discussed that, yes.
Yeah. Right, and this, and you may not even know this yet because what you guys are discussing, but if you're looking at summer school, I mean, are you looking at like a Monday through Friday schedule? Like I said, you may not know this yet, but.
We're working with teachers on that and what they want to do as well, what's best for kids and what also works for teachers. So we're in that discussion. Junior high is going to look a lot like the high school summer school, when they've got credit advancement, credit recovery, usually about 4 weeks in June. Elementary is not used to having summer school, so they're deciding we want 2 weeks in July, 3 weeks. You know, they kind of want to stay away from June and maybe not do it till July, but we're discussing that right now. What's the best way to do that? And how many hours a day? Not like a full school day. You're talking 2-3 hours.
Where would you do it with the discussion?
We would have to do that in the high school.
Is this something all the schools in the county are looking at doing?
A lot of them, not in, well, it was an area of principals, West Central and Southern Indiana Education Center talking about, there's like spreadsheets of ideas to what to do with CARES 2 money. But for achievement gap, for the summer school, they pull out programs next year, adding additional remediation staff. And we are leaning on summer school, because we don't like, pulling out, you're sometimes taking them out of class that they love, like music or PE or something like that, and that's some of the reasons kids want to be in school, so, but there's also benefits of pulling kids out of them too, so all those options are on the table. Good questions. Any others?
Okay, we have a board member comment and items for future agenda.
Hey, Darren, I just wanted to, just real quick, we kind of got going, I just wanted to recognize Lisa and Sherry both. Lisa's, been our front office there, she is, just handles all the daily operations and attendance, and she's just been great, and, they're moving down to Evansville, and Dave has got a different position there with AT&T, so we want to wish them all the best, and really appreciate what Lisa's done for, the operation of her office and her and Bree together and so forth. And then Sherry, we were, very fortunate and blessed to have her be available to take over our middle school science. And, she's just done a great job with that and really had a vast experience from other places to bring to our students here. And her and Alan are moving down to Florida there to be with their family and watch that family grow. So we want to wish them all the best as well. So just wanted to say that there before we go.
All right, yeah, thank you. Okay, so any other board member comments and items for future agendas? Okay, and our future meetings, we'll have our regular scheduled board meeting April the 29th and also May the 27th, and both of them will be at 7 p.m. And at this time, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And, I'm sorry, for the-
Yeah, thank you guys, appreciate your time.
That's
Can't believe it's so quick. Wow, okay.
We'll have a,
All right.
we'll need to have a fridge. Okay, man, see you.
Is that also?
Steve will probably remember, we had a presentation, gosh, I bet it's been 10 years ago, on leasing a